Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. We love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. We believe that with the infobesity around us, we need to be able to solve it with some very interesting and exciting and impactful technology. So with that, I'd like to invite my special guest, Kathleen Egan. She's a CEO and co-founder of Ecomedes. She leads a team of passionate and skilled professionals dedicated to making sustainable commercial buildings, products, and projects more accessible, affordable, and impactful. She provides a vertical SaaS solution that digitizes product discovery, research, and sustainability for architects, designers, contractors, manufacturers that reach out and engage customers with a dynamic and smart catalog. She's got over 10 years experience leading startups in areas like data science and analytics, and also customer success. And she's developed a deep understanding of challenges and the opportunities about automating and optimize it. Isn't that true about everything that we do today, especially in the context of areas like climate change? Oh, yes, we've got a challenge in front of us with the average temperatures around the planet potentially decreasing in areas like the US and Europe and increasing in places like Latin America because of the Atlantic current. So she's got a vision of helping people to become impact aware, where businesses can value both their stakeholders and our planet and make the world a little bit better place. So with that, I'd like to bring Kathleen on board. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Gary. Good morning. How are you?
Good. So you went to Lehigh University.
That's right.
How was that?
A lot of fun. I was an engineer and very involved in a lot of, campus life. Lehigh's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So we never really left campus. We had to make a lot of fun on campus. So it was a great time.
And were you in sororities and all that too, or not?
Yes, I was. I was actually on the Panhellenic Council that managed the sororities, and I was also in a sorority, Delta Gamma. That sorority has since exited Lehigh due to unsafe behavior. So I can't go back and visit our house anymore. But we had a fun time when we were there, and let's just be glad there were no video cameras in everybody's pockets back then. Or we probably wouldn't have made it as long as we did.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I remember Lehigh. I spent some time at Bucknell, and we were like, mentally not too far away. It was the same kind of thing in Lewisburg. And those are the times. And then you went to Harvard for your MBA, general MBA, right? How was that?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I worked for 7 years before going back to get the MBA. So I was, in the older cohort at HBS. And I didn't know I wanted an MBA until I met one of our vendors. I was working on enterprise software in New York City in the fashion business. And one of our vendors was a startup. And I was like, wait a minute, you can do that? Now Lehigh has an elaborate startup program, but back then it was nothing. Everybody, kind of went into manufacturing, banking, or consulting. So once I discovered that, I, went to HBS and moved straight away out here in 99 during the dot-com boom.
Oh, I remember those days. I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies, and I had Broadvision invest in the company at the time. And so it was 98, 99, 2000. And then March of 2000, we were doing Click Software, actually, and we were scheduled to do an IPO on NASDAQ. And it was going to happen, I think, in April is where we originally scheduled it, right after the meltdown.
Yeah.
And we only did analysis, and we did it in June, and took it out. And it was quite an experience because there weren't many companies after that March. But, it's interesting because, as we go down through these booms and busts, it's interesting, people said, oh, this e-commerce stuff is just, it's a fantasy. It's not going to happen. Amazon's just for book. I remember Jay Leno in 1999, and look at it now. Right. So, it's kind of funny. We come up with these ideas and they blossom and take off. Sometimes we get, what is it? Irrational exuberance.
Yeah. Greenspan.
Yeah, that sounds I,
We
and,
sold the first company to NBCI. I don't know if you remember NBC Internet, which was Alta Vista and the old Zoom with an X. And they bought our company FlySwat, and eventually that currency kind of went to zero. So not the best company to be bought by, but a really amazing experience.
yeah, it's hard to believe. I forgot about Alta Vista and Ask Jeeves and all these. It
Yeah,
was unbelievable at the time. Excite was right next to Broadvision. We were very close together,
yeah.
and those are the days. So tell us a little bit about it. So if you've gone down through this journey, you've done a lot of different things in terms of, looking at companies. You do a lot of incredible work. I've never seen anybody who's got as much volunteer experience as you do, from the holiday gift bag drive to It Ain't Pretty, right? So how did you get so where our Meals on Wheels? How did you get so? What made you decide to get so philanthropic, if you will?
I'd say from a young age, I was in the Girl Scouts, and part of the Girl Scouts was always doing some service, and from helping out kind of elderly neighbors, visiting people. It's amazing how far a little bit goes, and so that was really the foundation that I got, mostly from my mom and the Girl Scout troop. And then once I started getting into environmental stuff, doing volunteer stuff there, it just was really amazing how much people want to help, and they just don't know what to do. A lot of people don't know that we had an oil spill in San Francisco back in 2007. The Costco Busan oil tanker smashed
Oh, I
into.
didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, 50. It was not a big one, 50,000 gallons. No Exxon Valdez, but a very meaningful where I live at Ocean Beach, and we couldn't surf. The beach was covered in oil, the birds, the whole thing. So we started organizing folks in this effort called Kill the Spill. And hundreds of people came out. Now it turns out we were illegal because the EPA has a lot of regulations on handling chemical spills. But this overwhelming, just the whole neighborhood. I just moved out here, and everybody wanted to help. And I feel that still is true about sustainability. So with a little bit of organization, you can really mobilize a lot of good.
No, that's great. I'll tell you a little story. You're going to love this in your Girl Scout, because this just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. So I was a little girl at the grocery store, Publix, right by where we live in Palm Beach, and she had all her cookies there. And I asked her, why do you sell the cookies? She said, well, I'm very close to getting a badge. There's a badge that you get for your cookie sales. I had no idea. I never heard of. I was in the Boy Scouts too, but anyhow, I bought all her cookies.
Yeah, you must have made her day.
My wife was so upset. She said, Gary, do you understand? We're going to get really fat eating all these cookies. And they were like those Thin Mints and peanut butter things and shortbread and all that. So I ended up taking boxes of Girl Scout cookies and hand them out at this restaurant. I didn't know what to do with them.
I'm totally going to do that. Next time I see a Girl Scout cookie sale, I'm gonna do that, because you must have just made her year.
Oh, this little girl was smiling. It was unbelievable. Her grandmother was there, and I had so many boxes of cookies, because it was like halfway through the day for her. I had so many boxes of cookies I couldn't carry them all. So I had like 10 cases of cookies that I was carrying around with me. And anyhow, she was little girl was happy. So it was, and I heard about it. It was, I think it was Ryan Gosling. He was on one of the talk shows, and he said he did it. I thought, that's really cool. That makes somebody happy. And I was giving Girl Scout cookies out. So tell us a little bit about, where are you with Ecomedes, and, what's your mission?
Yeah, so our mission is to simplify and quantify sustainability, specifically for business-to-business products. As you know, Gary, lots of metrics out there about where we are on the climate change journey. Highest temps in 125,000 years, highest carbon in 2 million years, unequivocally tied to the activity of man and industrialization. Oceans being a massive damper to the heat and the carbon are failing on multiple fronts. And there's a lot of tipping points in here. So we're working on what's been identified since the 1990s as a massive lever, which is corporate purchases of products. It's over $1 trillion market and includes everything from building a new building to operating a building to the laptops and servers that go in the buildings. And we're trying to just make those decisions smarter by simplifying it and quantifying it.
No, that's part of the game, right? You got to understand what you have so you can make a course correction. This thing that, if we go down through it, you said in 125,000 years, this is the highest temperature. I mean, yet you hear people say, Kathleen, that there's no global warming, right?
Yeah, it's
why is this? I just don't get it myself. It's like, when you and I spoke, we talked about the Atlantic current, the meridional shift, and some of these things that are taking place. And people don't understand how profound this is going to impact who we are, humanity.
Yeah, and a lot of scientists have understood it for quite some time, and many of them worked at oil companies, and they have the best scientists in the world. So it is, disappointing when you have to kind of convince someone of this. I gave up on that. I did that for years. I do a lot of nonprofit work in the environment too, and try to educate people. At this point, Ecomedes, we're just trying to work with the companies who, are embracing it. Many of our customers lead with sustainability. It's part of their brand. It's part of their sales growth strategy. And that's on the manufacturer side. And then on the building side, the building owner, property owner side, you've got a whole range of maturity from folks who are differentiating with it. Salesforce Tower is a LEED Platinum, very, very green building, all the way down to dismissives where buildings don't pay attention at all. And so all along that spectrum, you've got different needs, and the manufacturers, the architects, the contractors who are serving those are trying to, meet all these different needs. So it's infobesity, as you say, times all the roles, times 150 different categories of product, all with different nuances. So it's very overwhelming to the manual system that's in place today.
No, I agree. And it's just gonna, but the good news is there's hope, there's glimmer of hope, because that's why Ecomedes is here. And, tell us a little bit about, how would a company, if the company wants to work with you, what kind of company would it be and how would they work with you?
So one of the first groups we worked with was the GSA, General Service Administration of the federal government. And they developed way ahead of their time, way ahead of the private sector, a framework called the Green Procurement Compilation. It actually started under Obama. And it is very comprehensive. And they wanted to automate it because they realized that the procurement officers, when it's, the moment of truth, as we say, right, to make a decision about a product, they were starving for information and they couldn't translate this complex policy into their day-to-day purchases. So the government said, digitize this for us. When we went to do it, we found out, we thought we would just get all the data from the manufacturers. They didn't have the data either. And they had as big of a pain point as the buyer did, trying to meet the needs of the buyers. So we work on both sides. Buyers like the GSA or the DOE. We work with a campus called Sandia National Labs, which is our most robust, longest running full campus. And then we work with manufacturers from Miller Knoll, who makes incredibly sustainable office chairs and furniture, to Saint-Gobain, who is making all kinds of construction products, down to smaller companies who are innovating and pushing the envelope. And what they all have in common is that they need this information. They all need it in their own way. They need it at the right time, and they struggle with it today. And that messy middle between buyer and seller really holds back this big lever. And compared to business to consumer purchases like me and you, using our water bottles, it's a drop in the bucket, right? Compared to the amount of volume and impact that commercial buildings and businesses can have.
Yeah. And let's paint a picture. Like, where do you think, how can they save? Let's say that somebody comes to you, what kind of savings can they expect? or what kind of ROI can they expect? How does it work? How do you develop the financial model for them?
Yeah, so for the manufacturers, our ROI is about 10x for, I'd say three-quarters of our best customers, some laggers. But in general, our goal is 10x. We exceed that many times, and it comes simply through the time savings. Looking up the data, doing things like LEED credits. I don't know if you've seen the medallion on buildings that says like, I'm gold, I'm platinum. That has been achieved through a complex credit system. And every product either contributes or doesn't contribute to that credit system. And there's multiple versions of LEED. The formula is different for different types of buildings. And so LEED consultants are a thing. They're very expensive and it's time consuming. So we cut that analysis time down to seconds. And that saves tremendous time, both for the manufacturers, their sales team, right? Their customer support, their sales reps, and their RFP team, but then they push it out into the AECs. So we have 9 out of the top 10 architecture firms using our system. They're free users, and then push it all the way out to the building owners like the federal government.
Wow, that's great. And so are there a lot of competitors in your space? How does it work? Because you don't hear that much about it. But where is it? It sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's relatively new space. You know, that thing where they say like you do something for years and years and you're the only one doing it. And then all of a sudden it's needed by a lot of people. We've been working on this since 16 and have, had all the grit and all the perseverance to get through that. Now with California's new regulation, SB 253, that you need to do scope 3 carbon transparency, that means all the stuff you buy. So there's a need that is growing. And our competition right now is mostly consultants. And there's a lot of great sustainability consultants out there, building policy, and that's great work for a consultant, but then doing compliance against that policy is horrible work for a consultant. And so that's where we come in. We can help.
So you're saying compliance against the policy. That's got to be tough because you got all those variables to try to figure out, right? How in the world do they do that, Kathleen? Seriously, like I can't even imagine today if you try to do it and I say manual, but literally put in an Excel spreadsheet or something. I mean, that's got to be an enormous job to try to figure that out.
It is. And we hear all the time from clients about like rooms of people, 20, 30, 40 people in a room. I'm trying to do it manually. And it just doesn't scale. You can't get compliance. If you're doing, the non-government sector is sort of on this journey from voluntary stuff to required. And in the voluntary mode, it's fine to cherry pick, right? You could pick a few green furnishing items and not worry about being comprehensive. Once you get from the voluntary to the required, and the SEC just, came out with their guidance on disclosures. They left out scope 3, but I do think it will come back in. You need a systematic approach.
What is a scope 3? What does that mean?
Scope 3, so there's 3 scopes of carbon. One is if you are a power plant and you're actually making energy, right? That is scope 1. You made the energy. Scope 2 means you bought the energy, and you plugged something in, and the energy that was generated on your behalf is your scope 2. Scope 3, it's kind of like plastic type 7. It's everything else. And it's a wide range of different types, but type 1 within scope 3 is everything you buy. So if you buy drywall or flooring or ceiling tiles or laptops, those had to be extracted from the earth, right? Mining, manufacturing, shipping, and all that carbon is called scope 3 or embodied carbon. And that is now part of California's law. Anybody that does over $1 billion in revenue, and you don't have to be based in California, you just have to do business in California. So there's a lot of questions about enforcement and the funding for enforcement. So, it's never easy. But I do think that
that's got to be really hard, right? Even the enforcement part is a pain. How in the world could you enforce that, right?
Yeah, and that's why
you know if it's right or wrong.
Right. Well, and that's why I think the SEC primarily dropped scope 3, and they didn't want to get challenged by too many lawsuits, but it was hard to measure. And it is frustrating as somebody who works in this data every day. just because it's hard to measure doesn't change like the danger, the risk of what's coming and all these tipping points. So it's almost like it being hard to measure. That should be an indicator that we really need to drill into it, not that we need to back off of it.
Yeah, well, that's where the danger is, right? If you can't measure it, you don't know what's happening.
That's right. That's right.
So you're going down through this. So, as an entrepreneur, you've been at this since 2016. How do you go down through for all those female entrepreneurs when you got the ups and downs, the ins and outs? How do you hang in there from 2016 to today? What drives you to stay positive and keep the company moving forward?
Yeah, I worked at 7 other startups before this, and I have done the perseverance through many of those too. And so a lot of it is the normal, you eschew the corporate way of life or startup way of life, and that part of that means ups and downs, right? So I think you get into it with eyes wide open. But different than all those other startups with this kind of purpose. The best startup I worked for before Ecomedes was called Profit Logic. And our tagline was helping retailers make more money, right? And we got bought by Oracle. It was a great exit, fantastic CEO, really good experience. But when you step back and you look at the linear nature of our economy, right? The take, make, waste, helping retailers make more money, right? We were just powering on the fashion and the destruction of the environment. So the way you stay motivated in that kind of world is very different than when you feel like, hey, we're actually bringing something that could help reverse this trend. And so that piece of motivation around the purpose. I have a 9-year-old son. Their view of the world is so different than ours because of digitization and our understanding of climate change, and just kind of to view the world through his eyes and think about where he's going to be in 20 years. He loves to ski and surf like me. Are we going to be skiing? Is there going to be any more snow? Are the oceans going to be? Can we get in them? We can't even get in them today in San Francisco after a big rain because of all the human-made pollution that gets dumped in the ocean like it's a garbage can.
Is it that bad, Kathleen?
Yeah, there's they test the water and they test for coliform and E. coli. And after that last big, it's like the first flush, right? If you haven't had rain in a while, the rain washes everything in, and then a lot of the sewage departments get overrun and they end up dumping raw sewage into the ocean. It happens in Marin, it happens here down in Pacifica. And the safe level for coliform is something like 100 or 120. It was like 2,000. Right. So you're swimming in unhealthy water.
Yuck.
Yeah. You gotta have pretty perfect waves if you want to paddle out in that condition, right? It's all cost benefit.
It's like swimming in the septic system, it's like, wow. So, as you're going down through this, listen, we're coming up to the top of the show. For you in terms of to go out there to all those entrepreneurs all over the world and that are looking at impact, how important is it for us right now? And what are your closing thoughts? And also, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm Kathleen at Ecomedes.com is my email. Ecomedes.com is our site, and you could click on see the catalog and go to products.ecomedes.com and see all the transparency data for 1.3 million products. I guess my closing thought is that there's this false narrative that it's sort of environmentalist versus capitalist, and that capitalism is constantly destroying the environment, right? And nonprofits and the government are constantly trying to protect it. I don't think it's that black and white. I think that capitalism actually can be a force for good. Capitalism was developed under an unlimited resource kind of situation, right? For the Malthusian economics, he said, well, guess what? There are limited resources. We haven't really adjusted capitalism to live within those limits, but we're working on it. And the SEC, that ruling will go a long way toward it. So I do believe that you got to embrace capitalism if you're an environmentalist, and if you're a capitalist, you got to embrace environmentalism. They're they're tightly connected, because it's really hard to sell stuff to a market that's like, drowning or sick or all the things that could happen. So I think that stakeholder capitalism, what Larry Fink, made popular and then kind of walked back, is a key to it. I don't think we should have walked that back. I think we should have gone faster with it. So yeah, capitalism as an environmentalist best friend.
Yeah, you're right on target. And for all the audience out there, you look at it, the way it, we talked about the Atlantic current stopping as early as 2025 and actually dropping the temperatures by 15 degrees Fahrenheit over a 10-year period of time. You talked about the Western Antarctic. When that melts, it'll increase the average sea level about 16 feet. It's anticipated within 200 years, but could be within 100. These things are in front of us. We all got to work together to make this world a better place. 8.1 billion people on the planet, going to 13 by the end of the century. By 2025, we got to double the food supply to feed everybody. And it can't increase the number of cattle because 26% of the pollution is methane gas for cows. So it's not like, should we just think about that this has to happen? And, it's great to have somebody, it's a knight in shining armor like yourself, Kathleen, that's going out there, with the spear of truth and to make that dent in the universe. It's important for all of us. Our kids, I think about it with my kids, your 9-year-old, they're out there. We got to preserve this planet for them. And we also need to learn how to get along together to be able to help each other, not look about the differences, but the similarities. So, as a Girl Scout, as a Boy Scout, you go down through and you learn some of those things. We need to carry it forward. So I'd like to thank you, Kathleen, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And I'd like to thank all my audience for taking time out of your schedule to join one more time. GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And I'm your host, Gary Fowler. Stay tuned for another exciting edition coming at you again on Thursday. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon. Thanks, Kathleen. And thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.